let's see if we can get this going. Okay, so creating and choosing names for your characters. Now, when it comes to creating your names for your characters, let's say you're in a fantasy or a science fiction universe where obviously they may or may not speak English, let alone have the same languages as you. So you're probably not going to run into an alien named Dave. Really happen. Um, First rule of thumb that I would say is very important is it needs to either be pronounceable easily or have a pronunciation guide at the very front of the book. And it needs to not be a made up pronunciation guide. You need to actually go Google how to make a pronunciation guide. Because I've seen one pronunciation guides have rules. They have ways that they work. And so it's important that you Google first how to make a pronunciation guide because there are certain sounds that are deliberated and shown in different ways. And I've had a lot of people be like, hey, this is my pronunciation guide. It doesn't make any sense. And then I'm looking at it and I'm going, that's just because they made up a bunch of random sounds that they think sounds nice rather than an actual pronunciation guide. We have a pronunciation guide for a reason, and it's because all languages sound slightly different, so the pronunciation guide is universal. So don't make something up because you are likely to skew it towards whatever language you speak. Really, and that is going to mess everything up. I learned this when I was reading an independently published novel, and I looked at it and I was like, why does none of these make sense? And I'm like, it's because she's from North Africa. That accent is brain. I can't understand anything she's saying. So, moving forward, um, with being pronounceable, the easiest way to determine if it is easily pronounceable is hand it to at least 5 of your friends or family members and say, how would you pronounce this? And if at least 4 out of 5 of them get it right, you're good. Every once in a while, you're going to have someone screw it up. Yes.
Would you have a pronunciation guide in the back?
I would recommend it being in the front if your names are super hard because in the back, by the time they get there, they're going to be like, oh, I'm not pronouncing that right. And then they're just going to be frustrated. Yes.
Or if you like bring a friend, it's like, hey, there was confusing stuff. What the pronunciation guide?
That could work too. If you want to put at the very like, hey, my pronunciation guide is on the back, you can do that too. You just need to clarify up front.
Sometimes pronunciation guides are long.
True, they can be long. So if it is a really long one, I would definitely say put a note at the front that says, for anything you're struggling to pronounce, please check the pronunciation guide at the back, like the page before chapter 1 or something like that. That way it's super easy to stress people out. Yes.
I remember I was reading this book, and right when the name showed, the author made a footnote.
Yeah, footnotes are also a great way to do that. You can have a footnote down below as well. Footnote ones tend to be a little bit more in the young adult and adult category, though. So if you're doing junior fiction, probably not as good. But I've seen some junior fiction authors do it. It's just not as often.
I don't know if younger kids know.
Exactly. That's why I was like, it depends. There's a big maybe on it, junior fiction, but young adult and adult fiction for sure. If you're writing in either of those categories, footnotes are great to do that. But yeah, point being, if it's not easily pronounceable, you need to give them a way to easily pronounce it. With handing it to your friends and family members, if you have like 3 out of 5 that can pronounce it correctly, I would still say reevaluate it, purely because of the fact that has a lot of frustration for your readers. Typically, you want at least 4 out of 5 be able to pronounce it easily. And I do say 4 out of 5 because pronounce the name just because. I mean, heck, even regular names. There have been times where I'm sitting Jacob. You don't know, man. I mean, Hermione. It's a classic name that has been around forever, and yet. Yes, and yes, there are people out there who are like, I didn't know until the movie came out that it's not Hermione, and I'm like, if you just read a British name dictionary, you'd know it's not Hermione. But anyway.
I only knew that it was Hermione because I read it like when it was popular, and I've heard about Hermione before.
Yeah, so by then you knew that people were saying Hermione. Yes.
If it weren't for the popularity of the book, I would have read Hermione 1.
See, there's that too. And so it's like that's why I'm like, there's bound to be a 1 out of 5 chance you're gonna have someone who just doesn't pronounce it right, and that's okay. Yes, it's a popular British name, but we aren't British, so of course we're gonna struggle to pronounce it correctly. Like, I get it.
Like, Hermione is actually a popular British name.
Yes, it's a very popular British name. It's been popular. That's why I was like, wait, as a because I had read some books that were by British people, and so I was like, oh yeah, Hermione, Phoebe, all those kinds of names are very popular British names. And I was just sitting here being like, yeah, that's cool. And everyone else was like, what do you mean? This is such a weird name because we're all American. So as a result, we struggle to pronounce British things, which there's nothing wrong with that. But it does make it so that you have readers who are going, it's Hermione, it's Hermione, and we're all just arguing with each other. Yes. So, even if they are a common name, for example, so I mean, it's so funny because there are a lot of names like that where they come from other countries or other cultures. But that's why when you're creating a country/culture that you have made up, it's even more important to make sure that it's easily pronounceable.
Welsh.
Exactly. If you have something that's Welsh or you have British, or if you have something that's classically Irish, Irish is evil, man, when it comes to trying to pronounce things.
Oh, wait, no, or actually, I looked it up. It says on his bio, pronounced Owen.
Yeah.
Because so many people say Ian.
Yeah. Exactly. And then if you've ever seen Siobhan spelled out, it's not Siobhan, it's Siobhan is how it's pronounced. But anyway, there's a name that's spelled Siobahn. Siobhan. But it's not Siobhan, it's Siobhan. Love Irish people. Anyway.
I did not know that's how
Yes.
Siobhan was spelled.
Yeah, it's special. But anyway, holy crap, trying to spell their stuff is hard.
At least
So,
Artemis is easy to pronounce. And Holly short.
you're like,
light work.
And there you go. That's another trick that can be really great. When you are creating names from other cultures, either have a nice base name where it's similar to an English name that we are familiar with, or have it so that way it's if it's not familiar and it's not familiar at all, have a few names that are a lot closer. And that way we have less of a hard time. For example, a great example of this is in Brandon Sanderson's series. He likes doing names where he just makes up stuff that you're like, I have no idea what that means. But he also does names like Kelsier and Vin, where it's like, okay, you can't mispronounce those. They're nice and simple. And so if you're going to make up names, I would say you have just as many complex ones as you do simple ones, so your readers don't go crazy trying to pronounce your whole cast of characters. Yes, question.
So in one of my books, there are like different cultures and tribes of owls, and there are like the ones that are sort of northern Norse names that are really complex.
Yes, Norse names are also really tricky.
And then there are the other owls who have more plant-based names.
Yeah, so it's a lot more classic. It makes and that's a really good way of one tribe where you're like, oh, I can pronounce everyone's names, and then another tribe where you're like, okay, I really have to think about this. But as long as the reader gets a little bit of a breather, so that's great. They just need a little bit of a break sometimes. Yes.
Something that I think is cool is there's like there's like a bunch of different people from a bunch of different countries in Artemis Fowl.
Yeah, very very multicultural.
Yeah, because Artemis is Irish because he is, and Butler.
Good description. Sorry.
And Butler is Eurasian. He's from Europe and Asia, and his name is Domovoy, and I think that's a really cool name.
It is a very cool name, but it is also very classic.
Yeah,
there's from that culture.
There's also an American named Biro, which can I just say, very American.
There are very certain classic names in
John.
American culture, like John and Jack and things like that. And you're just like, you're one of those. Or Daniel, that's another really popular one. Matthew.
Can I just point out a really cool name? Jax. J-A-X.
True. That is a fun one.
It's very confusing when you're like, oh yeah, Jax is, like, you have to say Jax is.
Yes. Speaking of which, we're actually going to discuss that. No, I was going to say that's a perfect segue into the next thing I was going to talk about. So good job. Problems like that can actually come up, especially when you are using very antiquated names or names that people aren't as familiar with. You've got to be careful when choosing your names. Now we're going to talk about choosing names from just regular, normal names. You don't have to create these, you're just saying, that one sounds nice. One of the problems that you can have when choosing a name is you've got to consider the context in which the name is often used. I can't remember who the author was, but I absolutely loved this comment that she made. I was at a writing conference, and she was like, I had a character that was originally named Jack, and he was very, very curious all the time, so he asked a lot of questions. And she's like, and I thought this was fine until I went to go read it aloud, and I realized that Jack is asking a lot of questions. And so when you're saying audiobook, Jack asked all the time, that sounds like you're cussing 99%. And so she was like, oh no, I have to change this name. So think about the context in which the name is being used. Because sometimes you can run into things like that where, like, in a certain sentence, it just sounds absolutely awful. Or in a certain context, you're just like, this seems just bad and doesn't make any sense. And so when you are choosing a name, if you are choosing a name instead of creating one, be aware of those kinds of problems that may arise, or certain just even associations. For example, I actually had an author that I was working with on her very first book, and she originally had her kind of like semi-villain character, you know, not the actual villain, but like the villain's granddaughter kind of thing. Yeah, small villain, baby villain. Her name was Cruella. The Cruella de Vil movie had just come out.
Oh no!
And so I was like, no, Bale, pick a different name. You will not be able to survive that, especially because she was very stylish, like the Cruella in Cruella de Vil live action. She had black hair.
Oh, no.
And I was like, I know that, and she was like, I haven't even seen this movie. I have no idea what you're talking about. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna save you now. Change the name. You can't do this. So, but yes, question, Sadie, or comment.
Kind of like this in Artemis Fowl as Butler.
Yes.
Which is his last name.
True.
But he's
Butler
also
the Butler.
technically a butler.
Butler the Butler.
Yeah. Something that Owen Colfer doesn't refer to Butler as a butler very often.
Yeah, true.
It's usually like manservant or bodyguard.
Yes, because he's not saying Butler the Butler because he realized that would sound dumb.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's like, I can't just say Butler the Butler. No.
Exactly. Thank you. That is a great example. Ian Colfer doing it right. Because you've got to be careful with these contexts that you might run into, or even just jokes that have arisen in society. So I would highly recommend looking up like the origin of your name too, because you may not know this is a famous villain, or you may not know that this is a famous something else, or you may not know that yes.
He's not a villain. He was just interesting.
Or you may not know that there's some sort of joke or meme around the name, and then if you name your character that, they're just going to be the butt of every joke instead of being taken seriously. So it's important to do a little research to make sure to avoid that potential problem. Yes.
So something it's sort of like a comment, but
Yeah.
sometimes when I read or watch a movie,
Mhm.
and I see a name.
Yeah.
I speak Portuguese, so
Oh, I love that.
I can take the word and think, wait, this name means suitcase in Portuguese.
Yes. Exactly. You want to. Well, all my characters rename suitcase now, but I love that.
And then sometimes I notice like people getting like Latin words.
Yeah, for sure.
This word is just simply sun in Portuguese. Just boom. There we go. It's not fancy. Right?
Yes, no, it's true. I mean, heck, if you look at Harry Potter, 99% of her names are for both spells and people are either classic British names or Latin based. I mean, for Pete's sake, Draco Malfoy is just the bad dragon. But anyway, yes, that is his name.
I forgot that Draco was
In Latin, that is literally translated to bad dragon.
Really, that's great. They should have.
And Lucius Malfoy is just bad light. It's like, what? Anyway. Oh, sure, probably. Sorry, thanks. I forgot.
That would have been great.
Yes, and then of course you have Narcissa Malfoy, which is literally just narcissistic, bad narcissist. So like all of their names are just a joke. So, and that's okay if people don't know the language. Like for example, Latin. A lot of people, Latin's dead. Not a lot of people know Latin. So as a result, that's not going to be a problem.
How am I supposed to know?
Accurate. But anyway.
In a Latin book, it's studied.
There's that. Or you just use an actual reliable Latin website instead of Google Translate.
There's a Latin website?
Of course.
Wow.
But anyway, moving forward though, if you're going to use a dead language, that works just fine. But if you're going to use a living language like Portuguese or like Spanish or something like that, make sure that whatever you're naming your character doesn't sound dumb in that actual language.
Oh.
That way you're not going, that's the prettiest name ever, and they're like, that means t-shirt. And it's like, that's a problem. So
I do actually wonder what the names in here mean. There's a guy named Fluter Flam, my
Whoa.
favorite. He is obsessed. There's like 2 F's and 2 D's. Fluter Flam.
Fluter Flam.
I named my friend Jordan Fluter Flam after this bar.
Nice.
He's just the best. But I do wonder what it means.
All right, so you can also have their names be ridiculous and just acknowledge that. I mean, real humans have this problem, right? Where you have the goth girl who looks like super edgy, and she likes to be. I actually had a friend like that who she liked to be called Spike. She was like Spike, the super edgy girl. And then when I learned what her real name is, it was like Stephanie Smith, and it's like that is not an edgy goth name. And so you can have things like that where they can hate their real name or something like that and go by something else. That is easily something you can do if you're like, hey, I really think it'd be funny to have them have a dumb name that doesn't suit them at all. And that's okay. That's a real human thing that happens because we name children when they're like small and we don't know anything about them.
Exactly.
Yes. And then you.
In one of my books, I want to do this thing where every character except the main character family have a very interesting last name. I searched the like very old last. I saw the most ridiculous thing.
It can be
There's
so much
a
fun.
last name that's called yes.
Yep.
That's the last name.
Yep.
Oh, I've learned. Okay, my brother has a friend, and I never, ever knew her last name because I don't care. She's just Alex. And then I learned her last name, and it's Romans, and I was like, why is that so cool? But also, I didn't want to know. You're just Alex.
Okay.
How about your question/comment and then yours?
It kind of makes me think of like these memes I see that are unfortunately true. They're like, it's like, oh, have you named your baby? Yeah, it's this name. Isn't that just a stray? But named fancy. And I know some celebrities have like named their kids like Bronze.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Or
what
something.
about the guy, Twitter guy? He named his child like X or something.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I don't know. He likes
Yeah.
the letter X.
No, it's true. There's one model who all of her kids are like one of the kids is named like Febreze, and the other one is named like Blue Dust or something like that. It's terrible. But anyway, so
That would be cool.
you're right. In real life, it's not cool. But see, that's why I'm like, hey, so if you have a dumb character, that's okay.
Basic basics. Oh.
I think that's why it worked in The Outsiders. In The Outsiders, when they were like, yeah, our parents were terrible, named us Pony Boy and Soda Pop, worst names on the planet. And it's like, I could see that happening. As a little kid, I was like, no one would ever do that. Now as an adult, I'm like, oh no, I know people who would do that. So, yes, what was your comment?
So, I knew like this missionary. His name was
Yeah.
Elder Envy, and then I learned his first name, and I was like, holy crap.
You're like, that was just terrible. Yeah, there's actually laws that have come out that say like you can't name your child Hitler and things like that.
But, like, his name is Brandon, but I like learned him as Elder Envy, so I was like, Envy Camden.
And you're like, Camden MB. It sounds like some sort of fancy like dish. Yes. Did you lose it? The ADHD has lost it. We'll come back to you.
I know some names that are banned. One of them is Nutella.
True.
Another one is like 1016.
Yeah.
Which
What?
is
Those
Nutella.
are my favorite numbers. No way.
Sure, but a
And
first
also
name,
Santa
no.
Claus is one of them.
Santa Claus. Oh my gosh.
And also Friday, I believe, is one of them.
This is painful. All right. But see, this is my point. This is my point. Just Google, first of all, Google what names are illegal to name your child because you'll want to know that first. But
So name your child that.
but at the same time, once you know what you can't name your character, as long as they're living in today's society, then you can be like, okay, now what is a dumb thing that I can name my character for the sake of comedy?
What is a paper for breeze?
Oh my gosh. Anyway, yes.
My role is in a bit to so I can name my fictional children whatever I want.
True.
Come
You
here,
can.
Stella.
But you can also do things like that and make fun of it in said fantasy setting, where you can be like, hey, guess what? There's a small behind you, and I'm not sure if the small belongs to someone.
Oh, small. A small.
A small.
Oh, why?
Anyway, so
Actually, that's mine. I seriously about the child I am.
when I don't know the age of a child, I just say small.
It's like a 6-foot child. Small.
Small. All right. So, and then of course you get to the fun ones where you can name your character something that actually means something. That can be very fun if you want to have a character, that is the daughter of some sort of wisdom like deity, and then you're like, oh, their name means wisdom. And it's like, that's so cool. Either is technically correct. They're both correct.
Wait a minute.
Yes, question or comment?
Can somebody tell me why the names of the Teen Titans are so random? Like, we have like Beast Boy, right?
Yeah.
He's a boy who can turn into a beast. That's very literal.
Yes.
We have like, is his name Cyborg?
Yes.
His name is just Cyborg, and
Yeah.
he's a And then we have Robin. He's not a Robin. Why is his name Robin? And then there's Raven. She's
Who's
also
not a raven?
Where did this? There's Starfire. She's not a Starfire.
I will
She's
say-
an alien, so I guess that makes sense.
Something you can get away with more is children's literature. If it's children's literature, you can pretty much just go eeny, meeny, miny, that name, and no one will give a fart. So,
Dude, like some of them have literal names, and then some of them are just random birds.
yes, but did you care when you were a small child? Probably
No,
not.
but it's funny.
So it's like,
So-
okay, this relates to you, this relates to you, and then bird.
Yes.
I mean, there's Batman. That's obvious. He's Batman and Robin, but like Robins and bats aren't even related in
Yeah.
remotely.
Yeah, that's about sums up comic literature for you. Yes. That's the next sidekick.
Wow.
Great names.
He was born to be a sidekick.
Oh, man.
What if
They move is a sidekick.
Whoa, what if you had a hero that was named Sidekick and their sidekick is named Hero?
Oh gosh.
That'd
That'd be terrible.
That'd be so
Speaking of which, that is actually another perfect segue into the next topic. What is your comment?
Juxtaposition.
I was thinking how some names that are actual names other places might sound weird here. Like I was thinking of Big Hero 6, and the main character is
Hero!
named Hero.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's like an actual
That's
name.
a
but
Japanese name. That's not a weird name.
Well, to some people, they might think like hero as
Yeah.
in like superhero.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
just because I'm a Japanese nerd.
Yeah, most people who aren't Japanese nerds were very confused by
Oh,
his name.
it's Hiro, which is
Yes.
definitely a Japanese
But no
name.
one can tell, so as a result, they're just like hero.
Wow, that's so obvious.
Exactly, it's so on the nose, but it's not really.
Yeah.
So, speaking of which, you want to make sure that your names are not confusing for various things like that. And you can actually have names that are meaning different things in different cultures. For example, there is a Vietnamese name, Dung. It's supposed to be actually a very beautiful meaning in Vietnamese. I don't remember what it is, but it's supposed to be gorgeous. Obviously, when you come to America and name your child Dung, everyone's going to make fun of
No,
it.
don't name your child Dung.
So as a result of that, you got to be careful when naming your characters that if you are naming them in another language, it's not going to be something dumb in that like other culture. Yes.
There is a member of BTS that I like named Park Jimin. And yeah,
Sorry.
people might think it's weird because his name is Park. Well, technically, yeah.
Yeah. Like
I can't
Parker is a name, but just Park.
Park Jimin. Well, it's gotta be 3 syllables. I can't put Parker Jimin. That's 3 syllables. It's 3.
Anyway, so last thing that you need to take into account when choosing / creating your names that is very important. They all need to have unique names. The only time that this is acceptable not to do is when they are, for instance, something like twins. Now,
What
yes,
about, like, all
I
the
know-
dwarves from Lord of the Rings? Oh.
yes, I know in real life you have moments where, like, my name is Cheyenne and your name is Shaylee or whatever, and it's like all the sh sounds. And it's like,
I have a friend named Shayu, and your name is
there you go. And
Cheyenne.
see, Shayu. Like, you can run into people with a similar sounding name, but don't do it in your novel. Why? Because use the heck out of your reader. You'll be sitting there and they'll be like Daniel and Diane and Dexter, and it's like, ah! And so by the time they finish reading the book, they'll be like, who is who again? The only time this is acceptable is when you do things where you purposely make fun of it and acknowledge that it is a problem. Or alternatively, they're twins, because people like doing that with twins, you know, naming their kids Matthew and Max, you know, they
Matthew
like
and
that.
Max, though.
That's okay.
I know I like Matthew. I also do.
So there are certain times it's okay in literature, but in general, I would not recommend it because it does stress out your poor readers. And I would not also recommend names that rhyme. So having like Dan and Jan, bad idea. Yes, question or
So I
comment.
remember when I was making from the Lost Cities,
Mhm.
Morella and Maruka.
Yep, don't
And
do
then
that.
finally, and then people, somebody finally pointed that out. I was like, thank you.
You're like, thank you. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was actually something that I feel like their editor should have fixed. That is a big problem.
No,
it can
no, his siblings. Don't bring up his siblings.
Too many. I actually have a cousin named Cheyenne, but there's like one letter off because you're Cheyenne and you have an E, and my cousin Cheyenne has an A.
Yep.
So every time it looks like Cheyenne, I'm like different Cheyenne.
Yep.
Yeah. And also, I feel like every time it's acceptable
Mhm.
is like kind of groups. Oops, like like I don't know if it's strip or something where it's like a group and they all have like similar names. Like I know
I
one
think
Disney
that's
movie
yeah. I was gonna
that
say
does something like that. It's like you have to change your name to sound like our name.
yeah. If you're doing it intentionally
like
and it's
in
some sort of like
Zelda with the Bolson Company, where
Yeah.
they all had to have the sun. At the
yeah,
end.
exactly. If you're doing something intentional that's like cultural or just funny or like a spy thriller thing where all of their spies are named James or something like that,
James.
then sure.
James
Like
is heading towards
there's-
the James. That
there-
James.
there's a movie. It don't worry, it is PG-13, but your parents still may not want you to watch it just because it is a little much. It's called Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and the whole premise is that all the spies in their thing are named Jane and John Smith. That's just the thing.
No.
And
My
so-
brain's already hurting.
but the reason why is because of the fact that they want them to all be anonymous and ambiguous and just blend in, right? And so as a result, they pick the most like average names they could pick, Jane and John, and then the most average last name is Smith. And so yeah, and so as a result, they're just called the Smiths. But anyway, point being is that it's interesting to say the least when you have things like that happen, and that's not necessarily as much of a problem. The problem is when from the get-go you have two characters that are named like Janet and Jackson, and like even that's okay because you can have like gender differences, but if you have Janet and like Jennifer, then it's like, okay, you've got two J named females here, and especially if they act alike or look alike, you're gonna have problems where your reader's going, I don't know who's who, I'm gonna lose my mind. Kind of like you said with the two people from Keeper of the Lost Cities book. I agree. I think she should have named them different things, or if she didn't, she should have acknowledged it way sooner. Because I agree, I was always confused about those two. So it's important to keep that in mind when picking your names. That way you don't have 7 B named characters and then they're all like Bobby and Billy and and it's like, ah! By the time you reach the 7th name, you're like, I'm gonna, what do you mean? So, any other questions about names, whether creating them, choosing them, etc.? Not really. Okay, cool. I'm glad we seem to have addressed everything. All right. I'm gonna turn the video off now since we're all good. Reminder: the next contest is the first chapter contest. It is due on December 20th before we close. We close at 4 that day. So your entries either need to be in by 3:45 or you need to have emailed me saying, I'm sorry, I'm sick, can I turn it in digitally? Those are your 2 options. If you do not email me before the deadline and let me know that you cannot turn it in person or have turned it in person before then, I'm sorry, it's too late.
Or you just like duct tape it to the library window. Or you strap it onto a breaking point.
Oh my God, please
run.
Please don't. If you really feel you have to turn it in that way, then I would say turn it into like the outdoor book drop or something like that. Then that would work. I wouldn't recommend it because it will probably get crushed, but I have had 1 or 2 entries get turned in that way. So you can do that. Just know that it will probably be crumpled by the time we get to
They
it.
gotta publish in a book and then put it in.
No, they literally just opened it and put it in there. But anyway, so moving forward.
They're antisocial, that's why.
Moving forward with that, like I said, you can, if something goes horribly wrong or like something last minute comes up, you can email me. I had a guy do that last month where he was like, "Hey, I literally have to go out of country like right now because my father-in-law is like super sick," and
What?
so he was like,
That's
"I gotta go,"
crazy.
and I was like, "Okay, cool. Can you just like email it to me?" And he's like, "I will email it to you." In a couple days, I know that's post the deadline. I'm like, you told me before the deadline, so we're good. Like, but yeah. So if something like that happens, something crazy, family emergency, or you get sick, just email me before the deadline and let me know. Hey, I will be turning this into you as soon as I can. I can't right now. That's the only time I will give you an extension.
In my appendix first. Sorry.
I mean, yes, that would be preferable. Yes.
I'm about to go to surgery.
Maybe don't do that. Maybe wait till you're out of surgery.
I'm on anesthesia.
I am on anesthesia. Shrimp noodles. Starts just saying random crap. All right. So, moving forward, I look forward to seeing all of your first chapter entries. I am very excited about it. Again, like I said, just make sure that it is original. It can be any genre though, as long as it is less than 3,000 words. And normally for other contests, we do accept fan fiction. But this contest is a no.
Wait, you do accept fanfiction for other contests?
For other contests, yes,
I
as
did
long
not
as it,
even know that.
as,
Oh, yes.
as long as it is your own original concept and it's not just like, you know, clearly you rewriting the exact script of the actual movie or anime. It's like you have to actually come up with your own twist on it, your own unique alternate. But yes, so first chapter contest though, no fan fiction for that. Please, no, not for that. But for the short story contest, that's okay. Keep in mind you might lose a few points just because of the fact that we do give extra points for being original. But at the same time, if it's well enough written, you could still get an honorable mention, honestly. We actually had a girl who did fan fiction and still got an honorable mention because of the fact that it was really well done, even though it was still not as original as maybe some of the other content. Excuse me. So, next contest after that, if you want to be thinking about it, is going to be the Winter Romance Contest. The prompt for that is going to be write a romance that takes place during the winter holidays. We define the winter holidays as being December and January. Keep in mind that that can be any time in history. So, like, if you want to do like some extinct holiday that we no longer celebrate or something like that, that took place during December in like Russia or something like that, you could have fun with it. Like, the more unique the holiday, the better. Or if you want to do a fantasy novel and just be like, this clearly is taking place during December, and but it's it's their own winter holiday in this fantasy universe. Yeah, exactly. You can have fun things, or even if you just want to do things like Harry Potter or Percy Jackson do, where it's like it's Christmas but askew because we have wizardry or we have demigods or whatever.
They were gonna have the best Christmas ever in one of my books, and then they got attacked by these goblin-looking things.
Yep, so that can happen too.
I was like, no, you're about to bond with your dad.
So, but yes, as long as it involves romance, that'll be good. When I say write a romance, they can even just go on a date, or even go on a first date, or even maybe it's an anniversary and they've been together for a long time. Like, as long as there is romance involved, there has to just be romance involved. I wouldn't actually recommend having them meet and then get married by the end because that is novel material. That is not short story material. That is novel material. Too much. Unless you're going Disney route. La 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 la. If you're writing a Disney story, then okay. But in that case, I would definitely circle the 7 to 9-year-old range because I'm sorry, that only flies for that. If you're doing anything in the young adult or adult range, you probably want to be like, hey, this is a first date, or hey, this is our 60th anniversary, or hey, this is our, I'm about to propose to my girlfriend or whatever. That's more likely. So I'm going to turn off the video now. Feel free to write about whatever you would like, ask questions about whatever you would like. In general, have a good writing time.
Yay.